Right, you lot. Now, many moons ago, you may remember it, probably one of the worst days of your life. I started a music career. I dropped a song called Be Stronger. It was one of the worst attempts at music anyone's ever heard, and since then, I'm still doing it. And I've continued all the way, done 5 albums now. And in that time, a lot of my friends from the school also started doing music. Well, the Keeley was already doing it, but And basically, all of them have done better than me because, they've actually got talent, something I lack. Now, you may be asking, why am I doing this when we left for school like 2 years ago? I don't know. I just wanted a video. So, in that time, 38 releases have been done between the 5 people from the school who've made music. And, well, there's technically 6. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I've decided to put them all on a tier list. I'm going to rank them all in, the classic format, which I've definitely not done too many times. Now, I've got them all in chronological order. That means when they came out. That took way too long. I don't know why I bothered. I thought it would be more interested and just do it by artist or just do it in a random order. So, yeah, I've got a whole host of them here, and I'm going to take a few things in consideration. Of course, the time period they came out, what they did for the scene, like how they changed, and also it's hard to judge some of these because I think a lot of these people, pretty much all of us, have got better with each release or have got better as time gone on. So earlier projects will pale in comparison to some of the later stuff that you'd get them to do. But I'm going to try and be as balanced as possible and try and keep in consideration when it was made as well and how it's aged. Okay, the tiers I've got iconic. Now, I'm not saying that any of us have made an album good as Thriller, but in terms of our scene, these are the most iconic albums. Banger is like, you're almost from the top tier. It's really good, but would it be quite as remembered? Maybe not. Solid is like, yeah, that's good. Solid listen. I enjoyed it, but it could be better. Did the job slash Thriller is like, yeah, it was a good experience, but it didn't blow me away. It's not going to change how I hear music, but it could have been a lot worse. Mediocre is like, yeah, I'm more negative than positive on this. It's not quite. It's quite disappointing, really, to be honest. It's just kind of Poor is like, yeah, didn't work. You tried, but the vision just didn't translate. Let's just say that. And then should delete. Now some of these are deleted because some of them are like unreleased or demo sort of things where people. I've included everything, so you may not have even know of the existence of some of these things. So some of them are deleted, but I'm not going to take that into consideration here. Let's start from the beginning. Now, the first ever release was somehow Party with Reese. So Google it if you don't believe it. This originally came out on SoundCloud in October of 2021, which is hilarious to me. You know what, right? I'm putting Party with Reese in, does the job. I've debated this with Reese before. I think Party with Reese was hilarious, right? It wasn't made to be the next, like, Vesper time. You know what I mean? It wasn't this serious, deep album. It was made as a joke and it was funny. The vocal performance of Susan is fascinating, and Orange Jumper was hilarious. I mean, the next 2 tracks weren't as good, but you know what? As a comedy album, everyone loved it. So I can't really say it was terrible because that was kind of the point. On the other hand, Made Out Alive is going to be should delete. I mean, come on. What has been said? What can I say about this that hasn't been said? The vocals are shit. The lyrics are shit. The beats, most of them are just like presets from GarageBand, and it's far from the Keeley's best work. There's no cohesion. The narrative is terrible, and the worst part is that this is a period of time that had so much potential, and what I could have done with Made It Out Live, but it's a failure on every level, and I don't even want to talk about it any longer. Progress Sake of Progress is also should delete because, well, it's just Made It Out Alive, but longer, with even less cohesion going on. The one saving grace is that it's got Warn You and U-Turn, which are like 2 tracks at best. So yeah, like once upon a time, maybe I would have argued it should be a tier, but no, it's arguably worth. It's an hour and 6 minutes. I'm pretty sure the longest project out of all of these. I'd have to look that up. I'm pretty sure it is. It definitely has the most tracks, and it does not justify that length. Internal is going to be poor for me. Look, bro's got a lot of releases on here, and he got a lot better as time went on. Internal was just like something that shouldn't have been released, and I'm pretty sure you can't find it anymore because it was kind of just like someone messing about, having fun, but it should have stayed in the vault. And that's the nicest thing I can say about it. Protestant actions, I'm gonna say mediocre. I think at the time this was quite impressive, and it was like, wow, he's doing this. I think the story that was going on here was pretty cool. I liked the idea, the execution compared to later stuff he'd gone to do. It just felt a bit basic and a bit dragged out of time. I didn't think the pacing was as on point. I didn't love it, unfortunately. If 708 should be deleted. Um, what can I say about 0708 that hasn't been said already? I mean, the problem is, bruh and Reese, right? Like, them two, incredible double act. If you watch the streams, it's just comedy gold. I'd recommend it. And I think Reese and Brian could make something so much better than this, and I've always hoped that they would. They have that old like 2008 label going on. I know they did the little collaboration with what was it? One of the songs in Supremacy. But I'd like to see a serious like project where they actually took time. And I know they've probably talked about doing stuff, but they made this in a day. It had a fart sound. Like Fearless was an okay song, but apart from that, it just I've never liked it, and I got a lot of flames at the time for disliking 0708. I still stand by my view, unfortunately. Big Rod is mediocre. I'll be honest, I can't tell you much about Big Rod. I don't remember it. I'm pretty sure this one's not on stream anymore. I feel it was a double album, this. And unfortunately, it just didn't have like the storyline to carry it, some of the later stuff, or some of the more intriguing elements. It just felt like, again, he had fun making it, but it didn't. Everything comes to an end at some point. I think this was fine. I think it's kind of like Dusk Before Dusk in terms of I think everything that was good about this was evolved upon when it came to Dusk and stuff like that. So it was okay, but it didn't do much to stand out. So I'm just gonna put that. Two halves. Half of the issue with this was that I had to Google Translate all of the titles, which is a very first world issue. Like obviously it was in Danish for like good reason, but just on that level, I think it was mediocre. I think it felt a bit rushed. It didn't have the themes, and I think Ryan would probably agree with most of this. That some of his later stuff was a lot better than some of the early stuff. But okay, I know myself. I'm gonna have to put it in mediocre as well. I know myself feels very first draft. I think Reese kept making these issues early on where like the way he works is really bizarre because he'd have a deadline and he wouldn't realize the deadline coming. He was proper procrastinating, which I know is a very normal thing to do, but I would have rather he delayed something like this and took a long time on it. I think But Being a Lost Cause was like the big single. I think the vocal performance was okay, but the beat was really generic and really let it down, unfortunately. That Day was a song that meant a lot to him, but unfortunately didn't connect in the way I wanted it to. I just think I know myself with the disappointment looking back, and he went on to do much better things. Dusk, I'm going to put in solid. I think Dusk just has like a really happy feel to it overall. The whole aesthetic, not all of it is aged perfectly, but I always appreciated it. I think it really showed a change in direction. I think this is kind of the oldest one that you can find on streaming, so I think it really shows like a changing of the guard. This is when he started to get decent, but he would go up to other levels. My Journey Through Faith, I mean, the Keely's got to be an iconic tier. There's no doubt about it, really, for me. I think My Journey Through Faith, like the production, first and foremost, like obviously he got to do this in a studio fully, working with backing vocalist. Obviously, he had a lot more resources than perhaps the other people do have. So you could give that to him. But the way he's not the best singer, but he's still able to have all this energy and charisma on the mic is incredible. Of course, he produced the whole thing himself. Like, it is an incredible achievement. Yes, it's like quite straightforward gospel lyrically. Like maybe he's it can get a bit repetitive, but he manages to make like religious music modern in a way that usually comes off quite cringe. Like, I tend to hate it when people make Christian music trendy because it's like it never really works. But the Keeley someone managed to add these dubstep and typical the Keeley elements that you'd expect and really make it solid. Crimson, I never liked Crimson. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just like the sound palette, the aesthetic compared to what it could have been. It never quite delivers for me. Just something that I never really loved Crimson. I always found Dusk better, and I think Ryan disagreed with me at the time on it, and I think most people did. I don't know. Maybe I need to go back to it. I just at the time it just did not connect in the same way that Dusk and Time did. Unfortunately, the past and the future. I'm going to put it in poor because vocally there is an evolution here. The songwriting is improved. Like there is baby steps going on with the past and the future, but it's still nowhere near foreign thoughts in terms of. I don't know why I went for country folk. I wanted to try something different. I tried it. It didn't quite turn out, unfortunately. Time is a banger for me. I think Time just has this like incredible vibe to it. I remember I was blown away the first time I heard it. I think the storytelling, the pacing, it is a lot better. I think it really felt like after Crimson, which was a bit of a letdown for me. It's like, yeah, this is on another level for me. And it is timeless. I'm gonna see myself up for that. Okay, Cycle. I'm gonna say it does the job. I'm gonna say it does the job. And I might be very harsh on Reese with this one, but I never liked the first track on Cycle. The flow like wasn't great. Like it's a very deep project, and it's very hard to But then you could argue the same with mine, because I know a lot of these projects come from really like dark places or come from really important things. I'm more focusing on the music because I know like when you listen to the lyrics of Cycle, like this guy is not okay, and I do feel bad for doing that. But there's just elements that don't work. I think April 25th XY is the highlight. That kind of Matt Miller inspired hook, the sample, the whole thing just works really well. But the other tracks, Running was really poorly mixed, and even when he fixed it, something just never really clicked with Running. Cycle, I just think the problem is he's grown a lot of confidence with his vocal performance, which obviously that does come with time. That's something that you just got to do with practice. But it felt like he was almost scared at the beginning or didn't fully believe it. Well, you get to Supremacy, and he's just having the time of his life. So it was just okay for me. Cycle, the songs didn't make it. Mediocre. Like they didn't make it for a reason. Like fans would like to see these like from the vault bonus tracks, but usually there's a reason why they weren't on the main album, and these were unfinished. They were instrumental only. It didn't do a lot for me, fortunately. I know that Disco is also a banger. I think if you want to understand these albums, you want to read like the Genius and understand kind of the whole like host versus that whole thing. That whole narrative that's going on there. There's a whole continuous story that's going on. I know that the Disco just has an incredible vibe. I think you really portray what he's going for without words, and I think that's very important. Like you get a good sense of what this is trying to be. The pace. I know the Disco has always been one of my favourites from pretty much the beginning. Heaven or Hell was okay. I don't know. The whole Heaven or Hell, but like it's been done. This one wasn't as unique for me, and it just I don't know. Sonically, it just was fine. There were a few issues which I'm not an expert enough to talk technically, but I felt that Alone at the Disco was a lot stronger as a package, unfortunately, than Heaven or Hell. This shit. I'm going to put in poor. Luke's first actually. I'm pretty sure this was a thing. Like Sam voice appears on this track, and any song that includes Sam is immediately. I mean, it was just like messing about, but it's kind of in the internal thing of like this shouldn't have left the vault. Okay, we got Lost Songs and Bruh B-sides. I think it's the same argument I made for the Reese thing. I can't really. Although I think that this one probably is slightly better. Maybe I just like the cat from what I remember. But like this just felt like I think he couldn't make music for a while for some reason, so it kind of just felt like I'll give you something. Well, to not make the wait so long for the next release. That's kind of what it felt like to me. Like we got this. No, you know what? This was all right. I think it does the job. It was like Luke trying to be Sophie, but with some like interesting sound. I didn't hate it, but it only lasted about 10 minutes and existent. Broken Twilight was mediocre. Broken Twilight was so almost incredible, and there was just certain bits. But I got what he was trying to do, but I think he went a bit too ambitious for the first project. But I appreciated it enough. Okay, Last Stand I think is iconic. It's just like the pinnacle. These 9 projects that he did, it's a kind of station. It feels massive. It feels big. And this one might be longer than Progress. Actually, there's like 20 tracks on. Yeah, the whole thing. Like, I'm not very good at describing it, but if you listen to Last Stand, you know what I mean. It just felt cinematic. 4 a.m. Thoughts. It's between these two. I think it's. I'm gonna put it in solid. I'm gonna put it in solid. And you can call me arrogant for putting 4 a.m. Thoughts there. Maybe it could go down a tier. I think 4 a.m. Thoughts was a big improvement. The vocal performance, obviously, the mixing, the vocal layering we did. I think that the songwriting, a lot of the idea. There are a couple tracks which would have been cut. I always hated Force of Feeling, but that's one of Reese's favourites. And Fractured, I feel like is a song that I don't like my delivery on that track. And the opening track was way too ambitious for what I'm capable of. But there's some really like solid track. I think the singles are good. Alien, Too Easy. You Missed It All is still probably the best song I've ever made. Reese absolutely smashed it when it came to the production on that one. And like really like some of the vocal effect Reese put on that. And Nikili worked his ass off. I think it like putting on the same level of Dusk is too unfair. I Had a Dream. I'm gonna put that in solid as well. It was a pretty cool aesthetic. Um, but it just I don't know. It doesn't feel as memorable as Depravity, which I'm gonna put in banger. Which I was a feature on this, so you could call me arrogant for including that. I think this is the one that had that "Stay Alive" song, which was stuff I had for ages. I like the whole vibe going on here. It was short, but it really delivered. I liked it a lot. Mindfuck was mediocre, unfortunately. It was like a bit more experimental. I got what Luke was trying to do with it, but I don't know. Sonically, it just wasn't all bad for me. But I think it was an experiment, and I appreciate taking a stab in the dark. Just wasn't for me. Rebrand is a banger. Um, it's very much supremacy before supremacy. It feels, especially the final track, that feels very supremacy coded. Pale Waves is a song that I've heard to death, but is so incredibly constructed. I think Dream Island was a really interesting subject matter for him to go after. And same with Law. I think it's short, but it does itself really well. Maybe in Another Life is also a banger. These both came out on Christmas Eve, by the way. That was like the best Christmas. Made Out Alive has got this kind of like almost singer-songwriter, like simple. It was really enjoyable. I don't think it exists anymore because there's the updated In Another Life. It was just it was fun. Definitely not the happiest album to ever fucking Christmas Eve though. I Love You. Poor. It was poor. The singles gave a false sense of security, but if you heard the singles, minus Brown Eyes, you heard the thing. Longing was a bad experiment, which I didn't really like. I Love You Too was just like a loop that went on for 7 minutes. Yeah, the whole thing of I Love You was just, it felt unfinished. I think that things happened in Bruce's life that made him not want to make this anymore, and he lost the motivation. And the version that existed was not what it should have been, and I can only rate the version that we saw. So unfortunately, yeah, it was mediocre. Hello Again, I'm gonna put in. I mean, I'm gonna put it in banger. I mean, there's an argument that could be up here. I think Hello Again, like the subject matter, obviously, like the stuff he's covering is just horrific if you look into it. Because of that, it feels kind of uncomfortable. It's not as easy to access as some of his other stuff. Like, if I could level criticism at some of his previous stuff, was that it did feel a bit repetitive. By Last Stand, it was like, okay, I'd be interested to see what happened next. But he took quite a decent break, which I think was the biggest break in between projects. Hello Again, it's got all this like this drone feel to it. Like it's horrifying, but it's so well executed, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for some of this. I think he deserves a lot more credit for this one in particular. I'm gonna keep it in banner though because I do struggle with it. In Another Life, I'm going for iconic for In Another Life. I think this was also kind of horrifying. It took me with Another Life and made it have a complete different feeling to it. I've written a review. I've reviewed a fair few of these if you wanna be more in depth thoughts. Of aesthetic, it's just the way it changed it up. Kind of all roads lead to. I think, or was it the one? The one that was the song that was 5 minutes was incredible. There were two Tyler Creator interpretations. Incredible. Yeah, I think In Another Life and the Nikili one go back and forth. Probably my favourite out of all of these. If I'm being honest. Skegness, getting it. No, you know what? Skegness is the same argument with Potty with Reese, isn't it? It's like, it's funny. But Sam was on one of the songs. That is an issue. Okay, the Bro subtitled, yeah, this is solid. I think it was very introspective, narrative of WP. I think it's bold to do a self-titled. I think it does epitomise anything you're going for, really. So yeah. The premise is iconic. The premise is just Ruth having like the time of his life. Like, okay, some of the lyrics may not be the most successful, and there's certain moments, maybe it could be a bit sample heavy, you could argue at points. But the energy, the personality, just everything about it is just pretty incredible. So catchy. Like no preference as a song, for example. I love Brutal. There's so many tracks I love. Lost Nostalgia. I'm gonna put it in banger. I think it's got to be a tier above 4 in Thoughts. I think Lost Nostalgia. There are one or two things that maybe I could have worked on. I think White Rabbit and the Red Queen is probably the weakest. I think there are, but I think vocally, I've found my pocket a lot more now. I think the songwriting's really clever. I think it's one of my most like personal. I think the thesis and the kind of ideas that and plus Ginger's in the cover, and that alone should probably he's incredible. So yeah, that is my tier list. I tried to be as objective as possible. Only 3 and should delete, and a lot more at the top. So you know what? We've done a lot more good than bad to the music industry, and I don't really care what you say. So yeah, I'll see you lot soon. Goodbye.